Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm your host today, Nathaniel. I'm so pleased to introduce Sam Mitchell, who is just an inspiring guy. I had the pleasure of meeting him just briefly here. Autism Rocks and Rolls, Sam. Very creative take on creating a platform to really dedicated to celebrating the talent and inclusion and self-expression of autism. I love that you've founded this, and this is you're the creative force but behind Autism Rocks and Rolls. I really want to ask you, like, what brought you here and the inspiration and the story behind this really beautiful endeavor you've taken on.
Well, first of all, man, thanks again, Nathaniel, for that warm introduction and the um, intro. But anyway, what I do is I run a podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how you cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I develop sponsors, a board of 6. I do events in Indiana, which is where I'm from, and I do speaking engagements. I've spoken all the way to the top in Canada, to the bomb south in Orlando. But what really started my journey with Autism Rocks and Rolls was when I started my high school's media club, and I worked with my school's podcast, fell in love with it, then decided to, instead of wait till college to expand my skills, which I already intended to because I found something I enjoyed,
Okay.
finally, because it took a while. Before it was going to be hospitality, but unfortunately they don't make a lot of money, but broadcasting makes somewhat decent money. And I decided to go that path and learn early by creating my own podcast versus waiting till I'm in college.
That's so wise, man, and I think you're resonating with a lot of folks out there. I think a lot of modern entrepreneurs, you're like making me think of like Gary Vee and stuff who are talking about like the ROI on education is really it's diminished. It's not even there for a lot of folks, and there's a lot of changes happening in education. So you taking proactivity and just going and doing it, taking the actions, and most importantly, I hear you talking from like a business perspective, but when you start a podcast and start putting out your voice, it also is a huge inspiration. It can be a permission for others to share their voices, and now you're impacting others through sharing the voices of autism. So why don't you tell us more about your journey and how it's been, like how has it affected you, and how has it affected those that you come into contact with?
Oh, no, oh man, where do I even begin on how it affects me? There's one way it affects me. I sometimes think I have a little bit of a speech issue, and sometimes those with autism, it can affect their speech. For me, it's because the way it affects my speech is I talk really fast. But I met other people with autism who it affects their speech. They stutter, they have a lot of verbal crunchers, like, wonderful organization. Or sometimes it's very quiet for 5 seconds and then they talk again, 5 seconds, talk again, or it's very minimal wording. There's one example for you.
Well,
And
and
then I would also
sorry.
say it affects me with socializing. I'm terrible at socializing. I sometimes crawl up in a corner when there's multiple people in a conversation. Very scary because the topics get changed too fast and I
Mm,
can't process the information that quickly.
gotcha.
So that's some ways it affects me. I'm trying to think of another way how it affects me daily. And then I have daily anxiety, very bad daily anxiety.
So has starting the podcast and really following this path, Sam, has it allowed you to, you're giving more voice to some of these challenges that, and you highlight, it's different for everyone with autism and different neurodivergent patterns. So I'd imagine that you're helping create more awareness. I mean, not imagine, I know you're helping create more awareness, but also do you find that this is building more confidence in yourself and helping you with some of those social skills that you're bringing up?
Sure, I would say so. Yes, I think because of what I do podcastly, I always laugh at myself because I can't socialize the well yet. I'm doing a job and doing something that involves socializing. And you have to realistically with a podcast or you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
make a living or do anything with the podcast unless you use your jaw
Yeah.
to jabber with. And yet here I am, one of the worst guys who socializes, but yet when I do jabber my jaw on the mic, a switch goes off.
Well, that's exactly what I mean by the inspiration. I mean, I remember when I was working at a college actually, and there was a young man who came and he couldn't read or write. He had some learning disability, could not he never developed that skill, but he wrote a book. And he said, and his message was basically like, I can't read or write. Here's my book. And I think that was even the title of the book. And I just thought that was so inspiring. Like, there's a lot of people who in our mainstream world of like hustle and bustle and everyone is trying to get ahead and all these things. I feel like inspiring folks like yourself who go past the comfort zone and maybe something that is challenging you and showing what's possible when you are affected by something that makes it much more challenging is really inspiring. So what have been some of the feedback that you've been given from people who have come on your show or on shows that you've gone onto that has really stood out to you?
Well, I would say some of the shows I've gone on before are parenting ones. Those are always outstanding to appear on because parents sometimes who are listening to a podcast with me have a child with autism and they don't know what to do,
Hmm. Hmm.
or they don't know the resources to have. Going back to what you said earlier, you were talking about this guy who couldn't read or write. Well, I've had a guest on who can't speak properly or can't write, but do you know what? He has a translator with him.
Mm,
It's his best friend because they've been
mm,
buddies for a long time, and he has known him so well. He can say his point for him,
okay.
or he can't write because he has cerebral palsy. Guess what? Someone can write for him.
Hmm.
My point I'm trying to make here is there's resources out there.
Yeah.
So regardless, you don't think you can. I think you can because if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, Sam. That's really important. You know, so um Autism Rocks and Rolls. How did this come into the inspiration for you? Because I understand there's an entertainment part of this, and I love rock and roll. I mean that was the first music that I really got into, and people love music and connection, and a lot of what you're talking about resources is in the form of community. So what led you to creating Autism Rocks and Rolls?
Well, the podcasting and media club I mentioned earlier, it just
Yes.
really clicked and I wanted to start early. But I also think that the topic at first was going to be about traveling. But I
Okay.
think the kicker was at the time span when I was starting my podcast, I didn't have enough material to make a podcast about traveling because if
Mhm.
I kept going with traveling, I'd have to stop at episode 10 because I didn't take any vacations other than 10 vacations a while back
Yeah.
ago. Now, clearly, I took in more and I could probably realistically, but it would still have to stop.
Yeah.
That being said, that with autism, there's just a lot of topics to bring to the forefront and I realized that who I am in particular, I have a servant's heart,
Hmm.
and I feel like I could have done much more with autism, rocks and rolls than traveling because not only the topics, not only the serving the community aspect due to who I am, but I could keep going
Hmm.
versus stopping. There wouldn't be a red light
Yeah.
with autism. There would be though with traveling.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it's a growing conversation, right? There's more awareness of more, at least diagnosed autism in our current society, and a lot of questions and ideas of why that is. And it's certainly a big topic of concern for people, and in terms of making our society more accessible and more inclusive, understanding that people learn in different ways and communicate in different ways, as you said. What is how is your mission with now talking about autism and like that initiation? How has it expanded to like have you taken on a deeper mission of what you'd like to see happen with Autism Rocks and Rolls?
Well, I think what I want to see happen is you keep bringing up this word awareness, and there's nothing against you. Not going to kick you in the butt for it, but that's the problem right there.
Okay.
The word awareness.
Okay.
Because we are aware. Look at our political system. They're aware. I don't now, so I won't get into the whole shindig of what I think with the politics because I
Sure.
know I'll get hate mail probably for it if I start bringing that up,
Okay.
but they're aware of it still.
Yeah.
My point is they're still aware of it. You're
Yeah.
aware of it. I'm aware of it. Yeah, we know it exists. But here's the problem. We're not accepting.
Mm,
Sometimes it's not in their dictionary. Autism isn't in their dictionary because sometimes they may see it and they're like, "Oh, autism. Cool." And they only read it hard if their family is affected by it. But if it's
yeah.
not, got it, cool, next page.
Mm,
No, not how it should be.
mm,
If you're not affected by it, I think you should at least maybe either read it hard because it is educational knowledge you need to learn about,
mm.
or if you don't have the time, because I get it, we all have busy lives, skim it.
Well, and so you talk about the gifts of autism, and I can tell you my direct experience. When I was studying Indigenous wellness, I was a live-in care provider at a L'Arche home, and there was many core members who had different forms of challenges, whether they were mental or physical, like you mentioned, cerebral palsy, and the kind of the paradigm of that organization was um, that core members do everything in their capacity to 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 co-create a thriving community. Um, and I learned a lot about the gifts of the different kinds of intelligences. Like for instance, this one woman who had Down syndrome, and like you probably are uh, 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 notice this with a lot of people who are in that hustle and bustle and maybe not thinking deeply about some of these experiences that other people have. Um, a lot of people wear masks, especially emotionally. We pretend we're not feeling sad, or we're not thriving. And I remember one of the core members just came and put her hand on my shoulder and looked at me, and she just was like, she could tell, even though I thought I'm like wearing a good mask, I was having a off day, and she could feel me, and she knew, and she just like knew I needed some presence, and asked me how I was doing. And that experience, that whole experience really inspired me to broaden my perspective of community and how important it is to be aware of the different kinds of intelligence. So when I use awareness, I'm speaking more of like just being more conscious. Um, what do you think the primary gifts that you bring as someone who has a different view and through autism, what are some of the gifts that you feel like you really help people? Yeah, like what is your view of autism, Sam? Maybe this is a big view, but I
It is a
really.
loaded question. I'm not going to lie there. That's
Yeah,
loaded. But I mean, there's a lot of parts we can go into with the views in particular. But
yeah,
one view is we do get ignored and shunned out by society because of the problem of it being a spectrum. I'll
yeah.
explain why. So, if you hear the word autism, lots of people might think, oh, they're the type of autism where they have the mindset of 3-year-olds.
Hmm.
They can't go to the bathroom on their own. They can't brush their teeth on their own. Someone has to feed them like a baby. Now, I'm not going to lie. There are some people like that. I have several friends who are actually like that. Trust me, if they try to do something else other than live at home and maybe play with toy cars, it ain't going to work out well. But then there's some who are in the middle. For example, maybe, okay, they have to live at home for the remainder of their life, but they can go to work at Wendy's at the drive through. But then you have people like me who biologically is 23, but developmentally I'd say I'm 20 or 21. And for the most part, can still do lots of stuff and can have decent social skills. They're not the best, but they're decent. And the problem is, people only think, oh, we're 3-year-olds. No, there's some who are on the middle end, but there are some who's also on the other side of the thermometer as well.
I hear what you're saying, Sam, and I'm actually coming from the total opposite perspective. I would say that I believe a lot of my perspective in life is from looking at things from a spiritual lens, and my awareness in that moment, and being around like uh, you know all kinds of people with different disabilities in school and stuff, I always had a servant heart as well. And what I realize is that, and I could be wrong about this, this is just something that has spoken to me, is that a lot of more advanced souls will take on the experience of, say, someone who maybe has um, autism or Down syndrome, because there's a richer experience that they can offer the community only through that way. Like for instance, some of the friends I had in high school, they were just so exuberant and joyful, and they didn't lose that sense of their nature. And what I have noticed with folks with autism is there's a propensity towards being very direct, straightforward, and truthful, which I feel is extremely valuable in a society that likes to wear masks. And that's what I was talking about. So, I see that in you. Like you're saying that's a very loaded question. I get that, but I feel like there's gifts that come about from the various spectrum of people with autism. I mean, even Elon Musk came up and talking about, having Asperger's and stuff, and he's a very direct person, and a lot of people don't agree with everything, and he's a contentious person. But I've noticed this also with some people in that are highlighted. There's always this tendency to be very direct and truthful. So that's kind of the gifts I'm talking about. Am I still being a little loaded here? Because I want to have a
No, I
more of an
think you nailed
expansive.
it to a point. I think going off of what you said, one of the gifts too, I think those with actually people that call disabilities have is something a guest once said from Canada. His name's Terry Bursey. I think you won't mind me dropping his name. If you want to listen to the episode, please do. But anyway, one of the parts he said in the episode to give you a preview is something along the lines of those on the spectrum are more aware of reality than those are. And I think that's true for people with autism, Down syndrome, OCD, Tourette's, because they've had to be more understanding because someone else won't understand them.
Hmm.
Those people, like myself and with Down syndrome, live life more authentic than
Hmm.
those. It's hard for me to see someone with Down syndrome putting on a mask if they're watching The Lion King.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think during a certain scene, I think you know which scene I'm referring to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I feel like there's gifts, like real gifts, and I feel like everyone has a role in terms of making this world a better place. So when you talk about like inclusive, like being inclusive of that, I feel like the healthiest society really celebrates the truly unique gifts. It also, I've talked on the show before about a really inspiring author that I found when I was about 20, about your age actually, and it was he wrote a book called Happiness is a Choice. It's Barry Neil Kaufman. Have you heard of him?
Well, I'm not much of a reader, so probably not.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring him up is because they had a very profoundly autistic son. I think probably more on the spectrum of what you were talking about. Like when that child was very young, that several doctors gave the same opinion that the child would not be able to do much with their life, would not amount to very much at all. And Barry Neil Kaufman and his wife didn't take that belief on. And I don't know how they managed to do it in terms of their like the flow of their life, but they both quit their work and went full time into being present with their son. And as I understand it, reading his book, he talked very much about them entering into their son's world, and all he could do, he was nonverbal, so he could just like grunt and make certain expressions and stuff. And um, what I understand from reading it is they would mimic him and enter into his world to really deeply understand and form a connection. And from that place of connection, they were able to start sharing about their world with him, that larger world that he was not aware of at that age. And so much to a point where their level of love and presence, it allowed their son to really develop in a way that not only did he become like a star student, he also became like a star athlete as well. So he rose very, he had that nurturance. And I always remembered that book. The book is about more than that. It's about how our personalities can take on other dimensions, and that happiness truly is a choice. But I always felt very inspired by that book because to me it gave this totally other perspective of both the challenge and the opportunity that some of these um, these things in life present.
Right. And I think too, what the kicker is as well is sometimes in order to gain respect from the people you're talking about, like that child who's on the autism spectrum, you have to give in as well.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So on that note, what have been the most like beneficial relationships for you, the people that really stand out, who come in and really want to know you for you, Sam, and form those relationships? What kind of characteristics or what do they do with you?
So I think what they do with me in particular is I think we have our own way of communicating versus a lot of other people.
Hmm.
And I think too, sometimes those on a spectrum live in their own world. And sometimes it's mission impossible to communicate with them. I know someone, I won't say who, but literally it's mission impossible to communicate with them because this person lives in their own world. And I think sometimes people want to change how they are
Hmm. Hmm.
because they so much in their own world and they want to converse with them. Okay, those people who want to converse with them are being selfish because you shouldn't have to change someone the way they're wired.
Hmm.
That's not right nor fair. You're wired a certain way, I'm wired a certain way, my mom's wired a certain way. It'd be like changing someone's brain, and who wants to do that?
Yeah.
That's just not, in my eyes, morally right.
Hmm.
Even if it is aggravating sometimes, even if sometimes I do get aggravated with this person when I might seem to think, man, I wish this person would communicate with me in my way too, and not just live in his own world. But at the same time, I think, well, although it's frustrating, it's not morally right nor justified.
Mm. I appreciate your perspective very much, Sam. And it's part of why as Light Heart Vision at its core, is a profound education association, because exactly what you said about the immorality of trying to change the way that individuals are. I feel like a big part of our school system, this is one of the big problems with it, is it's forcing subservience and forcing people to be and think differently than maybe they naturally would. So we'll be homeschooling our daughter, and we've talked to a lot of other homeschoolers, and this is why we believe a lot in community, because to me, a community really does accept everyone just as they are. There's genuine love and acceptance of everyone, and not trying to condition or to change people, but growing together in natural ways. So yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if you agree with me with the school system, but that's certainly been my experience. I feel like I had a lot of stresses in school, and I saw how even like people with special needs were segregated from the classes, and they weren't included in some of the other activities and ways that I think could have been beneficial for everyone. Um,
When it comes to your decision to homeschool, I think everyone with their own school has their own experience. However, I think you do have to put factors in certain place and certain situations because that might be the best for your child.
mhm,
I know with me, if I ever do become a father and my son has Down syndrome, autism, or their special needs, what's going to kick me hardcore is the bullying they
yeah,
might go through because I've been through so much bullying and I don't know if, as a father, I could put my son or daughter into a place where, yes, they may not get bullied, but there's still a possibility of it.
yeah,
That would
yeah,
scare me too much as a dad.
yeah. I hear you. Yeah, and I dealt with
And
bullying
personal
too.
experience from bullying too. I wouldn't want them to come home and say, "Oh, I've been bullied. I got stabbed in the back with pencils," because I'm just reliving the same nightmare.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I grew up in a home. I can relate to you, man, because my dad had a lot of trauma from his early years in school, and a lot of his fears I felt like were communicated to us, and I didn't like the school system and being forced to do things I didn't want to do, because I too was very imaginative. I only found out later in life. That I'm quite strong in terms of having ADD tendencies, and I didn't really realize how different of a thinker I was for a long time. And I've always seen life so differently than what they tell us in school. So I feel like there's an evolution that needs to happen in terms of these systems. So in terms of like your vision of being a father potentially someday and seeing what would you like to see our society? What's your higher vision for our world?
Well, I think a vision and a higher society that I would want to see maybe is where we're included more and the word special needs doesn't exist. Okay, maybe they do have a diagnosis and yes, it is Down syndrome. And I'm not suggesting that's not part of their life. No, I think you can tell them, hey, I have Down syndrome. If something happens or I'm on a spectrum and I say something kind of crazy, yada, yada, it's part of my life. Get over it. But I shouldn't be labeled as the kid with autism. I should be
Hmm.
labeled as the child who likes pinball, who likes
Hmm.
bologna sandwiches, who likes the outdoors, who likes to go fishing, who likes Marvel and DC
Hmm.
with autism.
Yeah, I hear you.
Autism should be the first word that comes to your mind. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it shouldn't come to your mind at all because I'm a realistic person. I think, yes, it needs to be there, but not the first clue in Scooby Doo. That's not
Yeah.
how it works.
You're talking about seeing the whole person. Yeah. I agree with you, man. I very much agree, and I it is my greatest wish for our society that we recognize the true self is much more than our human expression as well. There's a deeper reality that when you talk about people being in their own worlds, like I think the more and more we awaken, we realize we're not these linear beings. We're multidimensional. Like we have all these parts of ourselves, and it includes bologna sandwiches and I'm a big Marvel fan myself. I was before it was cool. So I've been around a little bit longer than you there, Sam. And I all of these things I agree with you. When we get labeled, it not only limits our ability to express our wholeness, it everyone else doesn't benefit from our wholeness as well. Like you can't shine your light in the same way if you're labeled and bullied, right?
Right. Think of this too. Why do we have multiple personality traits instead of just one personality trait?
Hmm. Hmm. Do you find that is different for your direct experience with autism? Like, because I agree with what I hear when you're saying, and maybe you have a different meaning of what I'm hearing, but like people wear different personas in different situations. Maybe at home they're a different kind of person. Maybe at work they're professionally a different kind of person. Maybe they are when they're going out with their friends, they're different. How is your experience with that being very transparent and direct? Like how is that different for you?
Well, that's a good question. I think most of the time I'm my ordinary self, like with home and friends. You're going to get the real Sam and you're going to get the most authentic Sam alive. But when it comes to work or school, I would say it stops
Mm,
because I am more the authentic self. But compare me to on a podcast to at my old school, I'm more quiet. And the reason why is I have the tendency to be straightforward, honest, and blunt. I don't feel like going to the HR person or the principal's office to explain why I said that because if the principal came and said, why did you say that? That's not appropriate. My answer may be, I don't care
hmm.
because it was the truth. Someone needed to say it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I hear you.
clearly, you didn't have the guts to say it.
Yeah, it's you're reminding me of one of
And
the
the last
things.
thing I want to do,
Oh, go
because
ahead.
I like to consider myself respectful and polite, is offend someone or offend the wrong person at the wrong time. And
Yeah.
saying that to the principal, you don't have the guts, well, that's going to clearly lead me to suspension.
Well, it's also being a truth teller, and there is consequences, positive and negative, to being a truth teller. And it sounds like a lot of tenacity it requires to be that kind of that straightforward. Um, I was just going to say, you remind me of something that Alan Watts talks about how it's uncivilized to kind of pull the curtains back on people and who are playing the game of society and who like when we talk about who we really are, how there's a lot more to us as individuals as life itself than some of the games we play in society, but it's considered uncivilized when you call that out and tell someone you address the elephant in the room or you call someone out for being untruthful. Um, yeah.
Yeah, growing up too, it was very hard because most of the time, the way I'm wired is I'm nuts and I have a lot of inappropriate jokes, raunchy jokes. Like half the time you think I'm pardon French, but batshit crazy. You would literally think that. But my point is growing up in places where I couldn't be the same respectful guy, but where I had to, as I quote, behave.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about behavior, you don't say your manners or you say please and thank you, or you throw a table down because you feel like it and you feel like being Hulk Hogan. No, I'm talking about you just don't do that stuff because it's going to offend someone and they don't want to hear it.
Mhm.
Well, growing up, if I had to behave at those places, I had to keep my mouth shut because that fear really got to me of making that wrong person mad.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Now, to be honest, too, one side of the family, I have two sides of my family I'm grateful are alive. They're both wonderful people, but the dynamics are different.
Mhm.
I mean, one is literally the batshit crazy side,
Mhm.
where I feel like I could be more my authentic self and I could still be respectful and behave, say please and thank you.
Yeah.
One side wasn't like that. And still isn't like that, but I've grown closer to them and got along with them much more better and still always got along with them. But that side, I'm more quiet because I'm literally afraid, well, even though I might go batshit crazy, they're not going to either understand or they're going to get offended by it.
Mhm. Well,
And I don't want to offend my uncle at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've used the word afraid a few times. From my perspective, if I may, and it might just be my my hallucination, but I see you as a respectful person. You're very situationally aware that hey, this is not the appropriate environment or person to say this thing to you, and that's part of the dance of relationships in general. So on that note, what do you love? Like what qualities in another allows you to just be that just totally yourself and laughing with life and being, as you say, batshit crazy, but just enjoying life? What brings that out in you, Sam?
Well, I think with social dynamics, if you just click,
Yeah,
like any other friendship, sometimes with your friends, I'm sure it was undescribable the connection, what you had.
yeah,
You just click. And sure, sometimes with some of my friends, opposites attract, but they have to have something admirable about them
sure.
for them to stay around if we don't click or their personalities are very opposite. I got a friend who I would say is very conservative,
Hmm.
but do you know what? He appreciates the simple things in life.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying I don't, but if I had to put it myself on the scale to where who appreciates simple things in life more, it's him.
Hmm.
He's
Hmm.
here, I'm here.
Hmm. Hmm. And you appreciate that about him. Yeah. No, I mean, it's wonderful. I think, like relationships are, I think and talk about relationships a lot. And it's true, like not everyone is just it's not always safe or feeling safe at least to be your authentic self. Like I'm actually pretty gregarious. I like laughing a lot. I like having fun and playing. So when I'm around children, that comes out a lot because I can roll, I can do cartwheels, I can, be all over the place, run around, make goofy faces, and that's more me. But I find around certain people, I really hide that part of myself because I don't feel safe. I feel like I might be judged or I might make them uncomfortable. So I just kind of put that part of myself and be more of just a listening presence for them. And sometimes I wonder if that's the right approach. Maybe I should just be this wacky guy. It's funny. I have a hard time defining myself, Sam. I say I'm either a heartist, because I do care very much about people, but I love art and everything, or I'm a cosmedian because I like the cosmic, highbrow comedy of life. That I mean, if you think about it, if it's true, either it's true or it's not true. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this because it's a paradox to me, man. It's like, are we one? Is all of life one, or is it not? Or is it both?
I
I don't
think
know.
part of your problem is, and maybe a problem that people have is people pleasing. I
Yeah.
mean, I think doing that side with the dynamic, part of the reason why I was so quiet is I had to people please them in my brain. And
Mm,
that pressure of people pleasing hit me so hard at 16
mm,
where I had no friends. I just felt bad about myself, man.
mm, mm,
And I came to the conclusion why it was so bad was partially because of the way I socialized and not fitting in,
mm,
but I also people please and trying to do what they wanted to do.
mm,
Well, sometimes it does work. However, for me and in my perspective, it didn't.
mm,
So at 16 years old, I decided I'm going to quit people pleasing, be myself. If you don't like it, the door's right there. I don't care who I offend.
mm.
I'm stuck. I don't care anymore if I offend my uncle. Screw it.
Well, I appreciate your boldness and also your straightforwardness, Sam. Yeah, I
And I'm not
definitely
saying I want to. I'm not wanting to say. I'm not saying at the end of the day, do I want to say screw my uncle?
right.
No.
Yeah.
But will I if I have to? Yes.
I think that at the end, we're talking a lot about the end of the day. I don't know what that even means, but we were saying a lot, so that's funny. Um, it,
What you want to do, I think, what your main goal is, by when you lay your head on your pillow, what your goal is.
oh, okay. Okay.
That's
I
what
like
I
that.
think when I say at the end
I
of the
like
day.
that. At the end of the day, yeah, you want to feel good. Well, it's a form of denial, really, when you deny your own authentic expression. And I think self-denial is probably one of the worst forms of denial because we don't, we're not born to please everyone in life. We're born to be unique expression of life. And no, I appreciate what you're saying. And Sam, this is exactly what I was talking about, the calling out the BS. And I've noticed this with folks who are dynamic like you, have all these qualities, and do have some expression of autism. There is that straightforward truth telling, and I think it's actually really refreshing. I like it. I want someone to be just straightforward and truthful with me. Otherwise, we're just lying to each other, right? So that's awesome, man.
Right. I think we tell the truth too. I mean, you may not want to hear it, but people pay attention and listen.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 No, it is more needed in our society now more than ever, I feel like, with some of the challenges that we're facing at certain, at this particular phase. We need to be more just honest. And there's an art to it. You've probably realized, like, you can say the same truth with a different you know in a different way that can land for someone rather than like being super aggressive, or like there's an art to communication in truth telling, and it doesn't have to be
Let me
people
put it
please.
this way, what on your point on that. I know it's there, but I don't have it.
Okay, gotcha,
I'll be 100% honest with you. I
gotcha.
know it's there, but in my brain, it's like, nope, it's direct or zip.
Okay, okay, gotcha. Okay, now
But
I
I do
understand
know
that
it
more.
exists. It's just my brain, because of being on the spectrum, I can't hit the middle all the time.
Hmm.
Occasionally, I have hit the middle before. I'm not going to lie to you there.
Hmm.
But most of the time, there's no middle ground.
Okay, it's either on or off. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting. That helps me understand better. There's a deeper comprehension there. Okay, well, hey, what would you like to share with our listeners today, whether they're parents or maybe they're health professionals? What's your message to the world that makes the world better and plants those seeds?
Well, I think the mission of Autism Rocks and Rolls and what we do is to take the stigma off of autism and other conditions that many think are disabilities.
Hmm.
People on the spectrum are not broken and don't need to be fixed.
Hmm.
Those who have these conditions like autism, Down syndrome, really do not need to be pitied. There's nothing to be sorry about, my friend. We need to not treat it as a death sentence. Sure, you may find some stuff online where it's like they have a meltdown, but here's the problem. I've never seen on the side of autism when you go online, it says they'll have meltdowns, but where's the part where it says they'll also be very creative and come up with very unordinary solutions that are really good and can do some beneficial parts
Yeah,
for the world or for your family.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? I feel like if one of the things we talk about, like our daughter is two years young, and we had a natural home birth. And watching her development, Sam, has been such a miraculous process for me. And she doesn't hold her emotions back. If she's angry, she's angry. If she's sad, she's sad. If she's joyful, she's joyful. And I feel like we get to a special a level, especially mainstream society, where we start, you know, putting that in bottles. If you're angry, stuff it. If you're sad, walk it off, dry your tears. And I feel like we probably would be a healthier society if we had more meltdowns, and also that would allow that creative flow because people are bottling up the very source of life, which is emotions. And so to me, we need more. We need more just honest emotional expression, and we wouldn't be as I feel like as sick as society and relying on painkillers and stuff like that if we had that.
I
My
can agree
opinion.
with that. The only problem is I think you run into the issue of it being too authentic. So with me, for example, like you said, your daughter gets mad. I mean, I got mad too. I got anger issues. But my problem is it's beyond anger.
Mm.
Let me put it this way. You seen Gordon Ramsay, Hell's Kitchen before?
Yeah.
Have you seen him get mad?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the exact level I will go to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Like
he's made a pretty good career for himself.
he's told people to screw off. That's the clean version.
Yeah.
And to get out of the kitchen, another clean version. My problem is I know myself enough that I have the capability. I'm not proud of it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not going to lie. I have the capability of telling my 86-year-old grandmother to screw off if I get that mad.
Yeah, but it's interesting when you bring up Gordon Ramsay. Like his career is basically, around truth telling. He started with going into these restaurants that were completely dysfunctional, calling out all the BS, and then having a very high standard that he lives by as a chef. And I feel like a lot of the qualities that you've talked about with folks who have autism, it's the same thing. And look, now you're doing a podcast, man. Like, how long have you been doing your podcast, by the way?
Since October 2019.
Okay, that's amazing. Wow, so you chose a really interesting time in the world to start a podcast.
Yeah, it was really right before COVID started, which maybe
Yeah.
COVID was kind of lucky on my side when it came to podcast wise, not mental health wise, but podcast wise, it may have been.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what is it now like working with a team? You have sponsors, you have a team supporting you. What has that journey been like into entrepreneurism?
I mean, I think for being an entrepreneur wise and having a nonprofit, it's very unexpected and it grew very organically.
Mm.
One minute, my next episode or my episodes have 10 downloads. Now it's 20, now it's 40, now it's 200. Next thing you know, someone heard about me and they want to sponsor the show. Okay, cool. Hey, we're going to start a board, by the way. Oh, okay, cool. And with sponsorship wise, I forgot to mention, I didn't know you could sponsor a podcast. I knew you could with TVs and radio, but I didn't know it was possible with podcasts.
Yeah.
Now, though, not only having a board and doing sponsorship, we're going to host a gala. Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, someone in Oklahoma heard about you on social media. They want to invite you to speak. Okay, cool. Never done a big speaking engagement before that wasn't associated with my school, but sure, why not? What the heck?
I think it's awesome, man. It sounds like you really found your elements and you're giving voice to, um, you're giving voice to very important topics for people, and I feel like the vehicle of autism is just kind of the opening of that door. And I really look forward to seeing how you grow and how your organization continues to rock and roll. And are you ever going to do a concert? Because it is Autism Rocks and Rolls. So,
I tried playing music before, bro. It did not work. The only
well,
time I
you
tried to play music was clarinet. Literally, first few days, I was like, all right, I'm done. My mom kept me in it, so I finally just gave it to the point where I'm going to fake play it, and that was all of the end of my instrument career.
okay? Well, hey, you're still a young man. Maybe you'll find an instrument that really resonates. Like, have you ever tried like percussion or like anything like that, like the drums or something
I
more?
have thought of that before.
You know what? It's interesting because I feel like there's an instrument for everyone, and even just we can look at the body that way. Like the body is an instrument. We just add attachments, whether it's a guitar or a clarinet, and we're not all built for the same expression, right? But you know what's nice about drums is very physical, so it allow you to get some of that energy out that maybe you wouldn't have to yell at your 86-year-old grandma.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man. I love having you on. I am inspired to see how it continues. So I know you started a school community. Do you want to tell people a little bit, like
Yeah,
where they can
sure.
find you?
So we're very new with the school. I will not lie. It's very new. I think we just started. When did we start? Maybe, I think December 2025 or January 2026. So
Okay.
very, very new. When I say new, trust me, I mean new. But we're going to use school. Hopefully, I don't think the module is published yet. We're still in the progress with it.
Okay.
But we'll have a module with lots of topics. One of the topics I can give you a little preview on is autism in the workplace.
Okay.
And then there'll also be bonus content for Autism Rocks and Rolls, stuff that you can only get on school.
Okay.
Not from
Amazing.
it won't be stuff you can get from the YouTube channel. Won't be stuff you can get from the podcast. It won't be something you get just from the internet search. It'll just be school restricted content.
Okay. Amazing. That's great. Well, we'll certainly put anything in the show notes. Is there any other, do you have a website or what's the best
Yeah,
way
you
of,
can find me on your favorite media platform, not a hard guy to find. If you Google me, your search engine optimization, something will pop up. Just do me
okay.
a favor, don't search my name because you get the basketball player. Doesn't research myself. Research
Okay.
what I have on my shirt, Autism Rocks and Rolls.
Okay.
And also my website is autismrocksandrolls.com.
Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing, Sam. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for coming on. I have one last question for you. I love asking our inspiring guests, if you had a megaphone and you could talk to the whole world all at once, what would you like to say if everyone could hear you?
Man, if I had a megaphone, I would, mine would be pretty simple. I always say this in the words, but I think if the world could be nice and not act so stupid, I think we get along so much better. Don't you think, man? So literally, if I had the megaphone, it would be nice and don't be stupid.
I love that, man. Be nice and don't be stupid. I think you know what, that says it all. I think it's great. I appreciate your character and how you show up, Sam. And thanks for calling me out in a few ways. I think I love getting feedback, authentic feedback from people. And I do my best to. I do my best to be a kind man. I find niceness can get wrapped up in those superficialities, like people put on masks of niceness, but that's just my perspective. But I love your message of be nice and don't be stupid. And let's all listen to each other. Yeah. Hey, brother, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before
Well, I can briefly mention a TEDx talk called Sold Structures, Why Those on Spectrum Need Structure, through the analogy of a pinball machine. Did an episode on it. I did dive deep into it through my TEDx talk. That's also
Cool.
on my website.
That's amazing, man. You did a TEDx talk. That's great. That's great. Well, really appreciate coming on the show. And if you don't have anything else to share, I'm going to invite my daughter, Luciana, to wish us farewell in an outro video.
All right, sounds great.
Sounds great. I'll see you on the other side there, Sam.
For watching.
Digi Rockton.
Say have a great day.
Have a great day.
I love you.
I love you.
See you soon.
Soon.
Hey, bye. Bye, Joe. Mwah.